a ratepayer in Kapiti District Coast for the last 2 years, and I certainly had a surprise reading the LTP to know that how no, that's not right, how in debt the council is. So that was a surprise to me. So it was nice, it was a shock to read it in the LTP. So I thought I'd come along and just express my views, and here I am. So I'd start off by how distressing does Kapiti District Council think the proposed 70% rating increase has on ratepayers' mental well-being? And indeed, have they asked? I don't think so. To my knowledge, there has been no impact analysis performed on the affordability for ratepayers, of whom many are impacted by the cost of living, inflation, low wages, high rents, some not able to manage higher mortgage repayments, resulting in mental anguish associated with trying to find money for food, bills, etc., let alone rates. I think this amply demonstrates the arrogance of this council. The proposed increase is well beyond CPI and compounding on the runaway inflation, and I believe that the council would have known that. I would first like to question, why has KCDC over the years and present times continued to live well beyond its means? I mean ratepayers' means. Evidence would take that they are financially inept. KCDC have a propensity to invest ratepayers' money in grandiose schemes, which are a nice-to-haves and not a must-have. A prime example of the inappropriate spending of ratepayers' money in the amount of just under $1.3 billion in grants and unsecured loans, of which ratepayers were paying interest on the loan, to support a private business, namely Air Chatham's. This investment, nay waste of ratepayers' money, was performed in an underhand manner without first consulting with ratepayers and gaining their approval. What authority has KCDC to use ratepayers' money for subsidising private businesses? Paying men dressed up as women to read books to children in our libraries without first consulting ratepayers if they indeed want their money to be spent in this fashion. Using $9 million, I'm told, of ratepayers' money for the Paraparaumu Transport Hub, when that responsibility was lied with Greater Wellington Council and NZTA. KCDC rates are already extremely high when compared with the majority of similar councils. Over the years, KCDC have lived well beyond their means, ratepayers' means. As identified in their astronomical, $240 million debt, or is it more? I can't remember. Does anybody know? Sorry? A bit less, is it? Okay. It's astronomical anyway. And it's, obviously it's a huge mistake to get indebted by this amount and expecting the ratepayers to now pay an increase of 17%, whilst at the same time New Zealand having a disastrous balance of payment position, saturated employment market. It's really preposterous to even consider that ratepayers can afford this. KCDC, they have advised they have performed an analysis and they cannot find any savings to limit increase in rates, without giving any explanation of what exactly analysis consisted of. But I've got some suggestions. How about implementing a 3-year wage freeze for all KCD management and elected representatives? That would be a good start. How about reducing staff and consultant numbers? What were the staff levels 3 years ago and what are they today? What comparisons have been made? What is the increase in the wage bill? How about letting ratepayers decide if they would prefer a reduction of services? Where is the analysis of library, aquatic centre usage, etc.? Does Waikanae really need a grandiose new library? If we're indebted to this amount of money, is that wise to spend it on a new library? I don't think so. So KCD, I would like them to see what the next 3 years' capital spending is and ask ratepayers what they want to delay. KCD delay any work on the Coastal Adaptation Plan, as this may never eventuate. What has KCD spent to date on this plan? Why? How does KCDC at least make some suggestions on how to save ratepayers money rather than dictating how it's to be spent? Now, that would be novel, wouldn't it? So I didn't read anything in the district plan about how you guys want to save money. There's nothing there. So the astronomical debt that KCDC has encountered on behalf of the ratepayers, it should be KC's priority to reduce this over the next 3 years by delaying some of the nice-to-have projects and sticking to the must-to-haves. No further borrowing ratepayers into further debt. Ratepayers expect KCDC to demonstrate responsible financial prudence. I realise these meetings that we're here today is for KCDC to tick a box that consultation has been performed, and I anticipate that the expressed concerns of ratepayers will be arrogantly ignored, as being the case with the KCD consultation to give 16-year-olds a vote. Some 400 submissions, 60% saying no, yet KCDC arrogantly stated they would proceed regardless. How about showing some leadership and advise how they are going to restrict ratepayers' increase to CPI? But I thought so, it's too hard. Thank you.
Thank you for your perspective, David.
You're welcome.
A question from Martin Halliday.
Oh, sorry.
Would you like to take questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
Yes, certainly.
David, just wanted to check. You say you're been here for 2 years, is that
Yes.
correct? Whereabouts did you come from?
I came from Porirua.
Came from Porirua. Okay.
Just as bad.
That's cool. And my next question is, are you looking at standing for local politics at the coming elections?
No.
You're not?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit arrogant here and say,
Go
if
ahead.
you're not prepared to put your hand up and get involved in these sorts of conversations and perhaps be a voice at this table,
Sorry,
to be
questions only, Councillor
Hold
Halliday.
on. I am
Okay.
being a voice, that's why I'm here.
No, and I appreciate that.
But
Thank
I
you
don't
very
mind
much.
being attacked. That's
We
okay.
don't-
Well, hang on,
we
that
don't-
works both
we don't
ways.
wait-
Oh, yeah.
That works both
Well,
ways,
actually, I
David.
didn't
Sorry,
attack you,
Councillor
did I? I gave my opinions about KCDC. I didn't attack anybody in this room. But if you take it personally, that's fine. Eh?
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Apologies. We should only ask questions at the table.
That's
Thank
no
you.
problems. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks
David,
for your perspective.
just no, because you
Councillor
asked a lot
Wilson.
of questions. I can't answer all your questions. The one question I can ask is absolutely yes to the Waikanae Library.
Why?
Yeah, the people wanted it, so
Well,
it's fantastic. And
but that was before the LTP. So I guess the question now to the ratepayers, if we don't proceed in the next 3 years, this will be the reduction.
yeah, pretty
so-
much goes back to the last LTP actually. But the no, the Waikanae Library is we consulted to death on that, and some people don't want it, but most people do.
But now that there's a 70% proposed increase in rates, maybe the answer will be different.
But there's a
But that goes to show the arrogance.
So David, there's a lot in your submission that we might disagree with, or we might.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what
that-
we're here for.
that we might respond to, but that's not what we're here for tonight. Tonight's to get as much information as we can, and then we'll respond in due course. And
fine.
rest assured, we are listening to our submitters. So thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Michelle Lewis. When you're ready.
Thank you. Just to start off, it's surprising that I am here, as I did not actually receive a time to turn up to the meeting tonight. No correspondence, nothing, despite being asked on your forms. I'm only here because I'm an elected member and I saw the list. As you will see from my submission, I'm scathing of the quality of the information provided to the community in this consultation material. The principles of consultation in Section 82 of the Local Government Act require information to be presented in a manner and format that is appropriate to the preference and needs of those peoples. This year there are less than 400 responses, I believe. This is less than the last LTP. Council staff are not learning from the lessons of the past. The material is so technical as to be meaningless to most people. Even I, as a professional of over 25 years in this area, find it difficult to read the material. It is dry and uninspiring. As a consequence, you have less than 400 responses to consider, which, if each represents one person in the district, and I know that won't be the case, is less than 1% of the population of Kapiti District. This means that the data received as feedback is unlikely to have any statistical reliability. To be representative of a community, the characteristics of those who provide feedback need to closely match those of the whole Kapiti population. The results are most likely going to be skewed, and proper statistical tests to ascertain what can be meaningfully read into the results and information you receive needs to be sought. I encourage you to get proper statistical analysis of the feedback completed by a suitably qualified professional. I encourage you to get council officers to undertake the analysis to give yourselves confidence that data is or is not representative, and then to receive the data as is appropriate based on that response. A further principle of consultation is that the views presented should be received with an open mind. Whilst you may all sit here tonight and say you have an open mind, the actions of staff who work for you are continuing on a pathway before a decision is made. Today we see emails going around advising that recruiters are being selected to appoint trustees for a housing entity, yet the consultation material asks the community to decide whether we should let the houses be transferred into another entity. This is why people do not participate in the democratic process, because you are not listening, and I put myself in there. Your actions say something different. For future, I encourage you to look at what others do. Locally, Hutt City has a far more engaging look and feel to their LTP, with greater ease of infographics that are meaningful to use and interactive documents. Absolutely, there are things that they could also do better, but there are useful presentation skills that can and should be used by our council staff in future to increase participation. Ratepayers are interested in the matters local to them. The words in those documents are just bland. They do not relate to the local issues that people see day to day, their street, their park, where their money is being spent. In relation to the housing options analysis, I am concerned that Section 93E of the Local Government Act is not provided alongside the other requirements of Section 93, which are covered, I can believe. I'll briefly talk about the role of the Community Board under Section 52 of the Local Government Act, which is to prepare an annual submission to the Territorial Authority for expenditure within the community. These documents are not, to my knowledge, prepared, certainly not for Waikanae. These submissions, if they were meaningfully prepared and submitted, would improve local democracy, as local people would be telling you how they want the money spent in their local area. This would then feed into our consultation at a central in the Kapiti area. This is missing from our consultation processes and needs to be urgently addressed in future plans. Working differently is the only way to change how people engage in the democratic process. Finally, I will remind all members of the Waikanae Community Board submission on the Speed Management Plan. This submission sought 3 raised pedestrian zebra crossings on Te Moana Road to control the known speeding issues. I again urge you all to explicitly include for the provision of these in the 10-year plan, outside of the Speed Management Plan process. This is because all residents on the street support this. In conclusion, I will bring to your attention the ongoing refusal of the infrastructure team at Council to respect the request of the ratepayers on Te Moana Road. Yesterday, the group manager sent a personal attack email to one resident who has consistently put themselves forward as the spokesperson. The community pay these people wages and they refuse to listen and respond. As a transport professional of over 30 years and having provided national advice on pedestrian facilities and having put in 5 pedestrian crossings in Waikanae whilst the road asset manager at council from 2010 to 2012, I have guided and supported the locals to put their requests forward. It is not unreasonable, unsafe or unaffordable. I respectfully request a specific project, Timawana Road raised pedestrian crossings, be specified in the long-term plan in response to the community. That is how you will get people engaged in democracy, by listening and responding to your requests. Thank you for your time this evening.
Michelle, can I just ask whether you are here as a Waikanae Community Board member or in a personal capacity? Because you've kind of segued between the two in your presentation. I'd like some clarity around that.
I'm a
'cause there's
public servant, therefore I have multiple hats on, and I stand here as an individual, and as an individual I would always wear a Waikanae Community Board hat to be the voice for Waikanae, and I'm not here representing Waikanae Community Board as the board, but I am a Waikanae Community Board member and always will be as a ratepayer.
Yeah, I'm glad to get that clarification, because as an elected member, publicly criticising staff is contrary to our code of conduct, and I invite you to apologise, otherwise I'll be lodging a code of conduct complaint. Okay, thank you, Michelle. Is Pat here? Pat Doonan? No? Okay, we'll take a short break then, because we haven't got Wellington Free Ambulance here yet, I don't think, have we?